Okay, we are in Wings to Adventure 2 Against the Sea. Hold on. Let's see here. Janie roused herself. Have to get to work, she said sternly. Can't stand around dreaming. The beach was steep here, and she ran down the slope, grabbing at a piece of wood and running up to higher ground with it before a wave could take it back. It was a joyous race with the sea, and she loved it. She lost out several times, and the wash swept around her feet, but she didn't mind. It was part of the fun. She waited daringly for a piece of sheathing to come back to her, laughing aloud as she caught it firmly and turned it to run. Then she saw Myra. Myra had only recently come to the island. At first, Janie had been so happy at the thought of having a chum. She had looked forward to picking wood with Myra and taking her out in a boat. But Janie's feelings toward Myra had changed. She had begun to think Myra was conceited. Moreover, Myra was afraid of the sea. Janie, who had been born here within sound of the surf, found it impossible to understand Myra's fear. She was the most scared person Janie had ever met. Yet here she was salvaging like a native. Why didn't she go back to her sewing, since that was all she seemed to like? As if Janie weren't there, Myra darted down past her and picked up a short length of planking that had been tossed clear of the last wave. Janie walked wearily up the beach to her pile of wood. The fun was gone, and she was cross. I might have known it, she thought. Of all the shore to pick on, she had to come here. Well, let her pick. I can't stop her. But she better not pick up any of that sheathing. The sheathing was what Myra wanted, and she was getting a piece of wood now and then, even though she kept jumping back every time a wave came in. Neither of the girls spoke as they ran back and forth. Once they bumped into each other, but still didn't speak, though Janie glared. Once Myra slipped and fell, but she got up and was out of the reach of the wave before it came swirling in. Suddenly, Jenny realized that no more sheathing was coming in. There was plenty of wood drifting in the surf, and she could have got that, but it was sheathing she wanted. The same thought must have struck Myra, because she stopped when Janie did and stared, panting, at the water. Her yellow hair blew wildly around her face, and Janie's dark braids were whipped loose. Each glanced secretly at the other, but neither spoke. Jenny looked at the water again, her eyes darting everywhere as fast as a pair of flying seagulls. Then she saw it, a fine, shining piece of sheathing. It was bigger than all the rest, perched on a flat, weed-covered rock among the mass of big boulders at one side of the cove. Janie started toward it, and out of the corner of her eye she saw Myra also starting toward the piece. It was a point of honor to claim the stick. Myra simply must not get it. She was crawling and slipping over the wet rocks just a little behind Janie, giving a little cry of triumph. Janie landed on the flat rock and reached down to pick up the sheathing. But in her haste, Janie had not planted her feet firmly on the slippery rockweed. As her finger touched the sheathing, she slipped and went down over the side of the rock. Before she could even get her breath, a wave came crashing in and caught her there among the huge boulders. Tumbling, icy cold, drenching, it smothered her for a moment in its frothy spray. She shook her head, gasping and choking. As Janie's eyes cleared, she saw another wave forming, rolling, lifting up, seeming to pause for a moment, and then racing toward her. She felt suddenly as if she stood face to face with the whole ocean. She stood with her back against the rock from which she had slipped, and there was nowhere to turn. "Give me your hand, Janie," the cry came from behind her, thin and high through the roar of the water. "Maybe I can pull you up." And that's where we'll pause. Well, Yeah, that's where we'll pause. It's a good place to pause. All right. Well, I love you guys, and I miss you very much. I'm very proud of you, and I just wanted to say that.